my dear friends, boys and girls, it is my pride privilege to present in front of you a topic which talks about something on fragility, from fragility to resilience, aligning to the theme of the conference. So here I will be focusing on multi-hazard risk mitigation of Indian Himalayan region. You talk about Indian Himalayan region, which is around 2,500 kilometer long. Average width is around 200 meters, accommodating around 50 million population and 13 states and UTs, sharing the boundaries with 5 countries. Over and above, it is youngest mountain of the world and having lot of probability of occurrence of earthquake, not only earthquake but landslide, debris flow and other things. And this was in the news in recent past, and you must have seen from the picture you can get, this is the debris flow which has happened and which has crossed vertically down 2,100 meters, and whatever the town which was very nicely built up, sitting was at around 13 degrees slope or so, that is Dharali, that is under debris to a tune of 50 feet, that is 15 to 17 meters. So this is the picture, what you can see. Later on, these are the pictures which clearly indicates what was Dharali before and after the event. So you can see the very nice habitat which is gateway to Gangotri and accommodating lot of pilgrims here. But fortunately that was a morning period and afternoon period, and population density was reasonably low. But important thing is the loss of life, property and other losses which took place because of this particular event. So just after 5 hours after this particular incident, another episode happened of the similar nature, which is again because of debris flow of morainic deposit which was there on the uphill, which is called as a Shrikhand glaciers, and that has also resulted and devastated entire ITBP station, which is strategically very, very important. Again, it has caused extensive loss of life, damages and everything. Another, after 17 days, next incident happened because of cloud burst. The artificial lake was created across the Yamuna river. Again, it is a gateway to Yamunotri, 40 kilometers ahead, and entire town, which is Sian Chetty, you can see inundated at a depth of 5 meters of water, that too in the night. Just see the risk at which the people in and around that particular region are living in this particular area. So this is the pictures of Sian Chetty before and after disaster. Similarly, you must have heard on January 2nd, 2023, Joshimath, which was a national crisis, you must have seen, and you heard also that all the buildings have felt damages right from 2 mm to 10 mm or 15 mm damages. Few of the buildings have tilted to the tune of 30 degrees or so. So this is again a gateway to Badrinath, and you can see around 4,000 buildings were sitting, and entire deposit again sitting on the morainic deposit. To face this particular national crisis, CBRI was invited to address this issue, and it was a very challenging situation to address social, political and technically how we can handle this particular scenario, keeping the balance among all verticals or stakeholders. So immediately we have installed the crack meters in all the buildings, monitored them on day-to-day basis regularly. At the same time, the capacity building exercise was also carried out, and whatever the buildings we monitored, that has been classified under different typologies. Vulnerability parameters were identified in terms of life-threatening factors and vulnerable factors, but unfortunately the development which was happening in Joshimath or elsewhere, that is highly irregulated, and particularly it is extended vertically and horizontally without any engineering input into it. So high vulnerability exists in all kinds of building. So apart from the subsidence, the superstructures are also not good. And based on the international and national guidelines, we have classified all the buildings which has been assessed in the 4 classes, that is usable, access further, unusable and demolished. And whatever the buildings we identified as the demolished, recommended for demolition, and other buildings have been taken appropriate action based on the administrative guidelines. But what is the scientific input into it? That each and every buildings was marked in the different classes, ward-wise, and a critical zone was marked within a week or so. Afterwards, a macro zonation map was created, which was again highlighting entire town into low, medium, and high. Further, after 2 to 3 months, lot of input information has come from different organizations on geotechnical, geophysical, geomorphological aspects, including underground water conditions. And based on that, we have identified that which is the critical low. Means macro zonation map was converted into the micro zonations, and the reasons for all these occurrences was proven that because of heavy discharge of underground water through the moranic deposit, this has took place over and above the overloading of the ground. That's why the micro-zoned region should not be overloaded and construction should be debarred in this particular location. Now, this was the nature's fury, but apart from that, you must have come across that the seismic zonation of this particular region, entire Uttarakhand or entire Himalayan belt is under seismic zone 6. And when you talk about the return period, it is about 0.5 and 0.6 G for 475 and 975 years. Are we built up, is our environment or built environment is ready to sustain this kind of loading? It is a big question mark on all of us. And for that purpose, if we see or look at in the past, what our buildings performed in India, across the India, different, so this is some of the pictures from Gujarat, Nepal, thereafter Mexico, Turkey earthquake, you talk about the masonry building, RC building, historic buildings, thereafter the precast building, prefabricated buildings, steel structures, and apart from that, the infrastructure that has failed miserably across the globe, and same thing will happen if we continue on the similar path what we are doing in the past. So we have to, it is a big question mark on all of us, and not only the structures and the superstructure, but all the content is also need to be looked into. So are we ready first of all, and can we learn something from Taiwan? If you look at the earthquake, Chichi earthquake 99, which took place in Taiwan, and again in 2024, that was a Hualien earthquake in Taiwan itself. It was of the similar description in terms of magnitude and faults and everything. But interestingly, you can have a look that what about the casualties? In terms of casualty, you can see in 1999, the 2,400 people were died, and as against that, only 18. If you see the number of buildings collapsed, it was 1 lakh plus, and here only 84. So there was a drastic control in the new construction by building appropriate bylaws and massive retrofitting exercise. Can we do similar kind of exercise for the country? This is a big question mark for all of us, because we easily understand that what is the risk. Risk which is a product of hazard, vulnerability and exposure. As a structural engineer, we have to focus on vulnerability because it is our duty how we design or how you retrofit it. Definitely municipality has to take charge on exposure, but if we really think of people and built environment, we need to do it. And for that purpose, again, CBRI came in the forefront to just create a model, a demonstrative project for 6 towns in Indian Himalayan region, and wherein we have tried to basically simplify the process of risk assessment rather than going into too many complications. In terms of hazard, whatever the available latest literature available that has been referred. In case of vulnerability, we have performed the field assessment extensively, and at the same time, representative building samples have been picked up for different typologies in Indian context to carry out the fragility analysis and develop the fragility curve in Indian perspective, followed by the exposure, and which is basically coupled with the field investigation, wherein we have created the detailed demographic evidences home to home by doing door-to-door survey, and developed or evolved a model which is again based on the past damage probability matrix was developed based on the past damages happened in India, and the risk was computed for each region, thereby developing the risk zonation map, which is again the consequence model for different intensity of or magnitude of earthquake. So in short, if we look at Indian Himalayan region, which is, you can see high seismic risk, historical devastation, vulnerable population, buildings and critical infrastructure is at risk because of the anthropogenic pressure. In terms of hazard, you see, it is sitting on a complex lithology, lineament faults, geomorphological and complex natural setups. So when you see the evaluation from seismic point of view, the faults and the tectonics, we know, past major earthquakes also we know, and we know the seismic zonation map which has built in recently. In keeping those views, we have carried out the detailed geological assessment followed by the lineament information compilation and geological preparation. In addition to that, the liquefaction potential map which is exist in our literature, and vulnerability was assessed, and which unfortunately shows a very highly alerting parameters, which shows that around more than 85% of our buildings in such region is non-engineered, and mostly unreinforced masonry and soft story buildings are there, sitting on the steep slopes. Critical facilities like hospitals and schools are also made up of unreinforced masonry. So it is a high alert for all of us, and physical vulnerability also exists. What methodology we adopted is, as I mentioned, that field observations followed by fragility curve development, and for this purpose, the outcome has been correlated in terms of the different damage probability matrix. So D1 to D5 based on again international and national standards. So this is the prevalent building typologies which has been adopted, and this is the parameters, penalty parameters in terms of economic loss induced factors has been adopted, which has been again a part of now recently developed IS 13935 part 5. So in addition to that, it was coupled with the fragility curve for RC and masonry buildings, and exposure has been dealt in terms of the loss happened to the people and the assets. So for that purpose, again the door-to-door survey provided a very good information which shows that the population is at high risk, dense cluster, assets and other infrastructure and other systematic vulnerability exists, and we need to look into it, and particularly to the vulnerable population less than 18 years and 60 years plus. For that purpose, based on the damage, we have developed the damage probability matrix for the how many number of fatalities, injuries, homeless, and the usable and unusable buildings in the region in case of various kind of intensity of disaster or ground shaking happens. And similarly, the consequence model was also developed in Indian context for the property and economic loss. So this is just quick case study for Kandaghat, which when we studied the Kandaghat, which is spread over around 26 square kilometer, and the population demographic study you can see here. So systematically we have conducted created the earthquake scenario and the extreme landslide scenario, wherein we considered that the extreme rainfall scenario will be triggered whenever the ground penetration or saturation level is exceeding the 50%. With this assumption, we have developed or represented the landslide probability in terms of factor of safety, and then the vertical displacement occurs in the ground subsequent upon the landslide. So this is how we have approached the multi-hazard scenario. Interestingly, we got a very result by both the methods in agreement. And this is the scenario-based consequence assessment for Kandaghat, which shows the fatalities, injuries, casualties, and business loss, including the short and long-term buildings, so at different level of ground shaking. Now, so based on this input, we have created the risk map for the region in terms of fatalities estimation, injuries estimations, casualty estimation and economic loss estimation for different ground shaking ranging from 0.3 to 0.6, 0.7, though this particular region is subjected to 0.6 as per IS 1893 2025 seismic zoning map. Thus, at last, as a guiding factor for the bureaucracy or for the politician, we have also created the seismic risk map for the Kandaghar, demarcating clearly the grids. These grids were created 200 meters by 200 meters, and it is clearly demarcating the critical locations where the resilience center should be identified. If existing building is there, that should be retrofitted, or new construction should be done for similar kind of activities, so that in case of disaster, it will be clearly visible to the people that how we have to react and where I have to store my food, where hospitals and other things. So this kind of a readiness we need to create in the country. This is one of the example we have mentioned, but we need to create similar kind of example across the country. Then only if we will talk about Vision 2047 about Viksit Bharat, that will be achieved. So how we can achieve? We can achieve in a phased manner. First of all, focus on zero fatalities, followed by zero injuries, zero property loss, and at the end, zero business loss. If we try to do, right now, the time window or recovery period is around 10 years. Can we reduce that 10 years to 10 weeks? So that if that is the motto, we need to assemble together. At the same time, we have to focus whatever the new construction happens on the low to medium rise construction, that should be confined masonry, and whatever the existing structures are there, that should be retrofitted on a mass scale. We are using the quick, cost-effective, and repeatable and methodology. So in CBRI, we have evolved a methodology which basically clears. We have conducted, first of all, extensive laboratory investigation and full-scale investigation in the lab for different building typologies, and unreinforced masonry is one of them. And also demonstrated its implementation. In addition to that, we have calculated the cost in terms of per square feet retrofitting and how much time. So this particular method is basically simple, easy to implement, cost-effective, makes use of locally available construction materials, skills, and over and above, it can be conducted when the occupants are not displaced from the house. So this is the example what we want to demonstrate and that has been done very effectively at a minimum possible time. And the cost of retrofitting comes around 3 to 5% to that of reconstruction. Though our guideline says that it is around 20 to 30% is the limit, but this has been done very effectively and it has achieved. So you can see the work. We have placed the MS flats at the lintel level, sill level. It was anchored by means of a bolt which was fixed at a regular interval. Now the big question is, what is the spacing, what is the size? That has also been evaluated, and it is given in the form of a table which gives size of my MS flats for different region, and that again depends upon the number of story, one story, 2 story, 3 story. So thus we can achieve So this is the recommendations. Ultimately, finally, we have given for seismic zone, high seismic zone, that we need to provide the lintel band, MS flat lintel band at sill level, lintel level, and at the corner. We have to fix the angles. It can be anchored appropriately, and this matrix shows what element we need to pick up based on the zonation and number of story. This is the cost, which is again very economically acceptable within the range. And for that purpose, now as an engineer, we need to focus on vulnerability. In the summary, I would like to mention that now what does this mean for India? It means our retrofit concepts are technically correct. We have evaluated and in CBRI and elsewhere also, and we are confident on this. It means that the simplified methods and detailing works, how we can implement that we have to brainstorm. It means the performance-based retrofit is achievable. Only need is to transform the policy and practice to bring the resilience. In the summary, I would like to mention that India's earthquake resilience will be judged not by its tallest structures or tallest towers, but by safety of the smallest home. then only we will be able to safeguard our population and assets. I'm sincerely thankful and grateful to organizers. Special thanks to Professor Pradeep Kumar, Alok Bhaumik ji, Manoj Mittal ji, Dr. Anchuri ji, Dr. Kalgal ji, and staff of StructE. In addition to that, I am thankful to the Government of India and my parent organization, that is CSR CBRI, and you all for your kind attention and patience hearing. Thank you.